So I would like to tell you about one of my mentors in my faith. So Chuck Burns was the minister at First Christian Jenks. And he was my minister from when I was 4 years old, all through 18 when I went off to college. He was so impactful to me in my formative years. And the church under his leadership was such a warm, loving place for me. Sorry. And I've really tried to replicate that warm, loving feel here at Forest Park, because that was how the church felt under Chuck's leadership back when I was there in the 80s and in the 90s. We've had a few members migrate over from First Christian Jenks to Forest Park, and one of the best compliments that I hear from them is that this place reminds me of FCC Jenks in the 90s. It's so awesome to hear that. The reason that kids are running all through my office and checking out the fish and taking mints from my drawer was because that was the atmosphere that Chuck provided to all of us when we were little. I mean, there were countless times, this is a true story, there were countless times when I would be in middle school or something like that, and the Sunday school would be over, but church hasn't started yet. So I would just walk into Chuck's office, and his office wasn't up front like mine. You had to find, hallways to get there. So I'd walk into Chuck's office like I owned the place. I would sit at his desk, and I'd get on his phone and talk to my friends. That's just what I would do. He would walk in to see me at his desk on the phone, and I did this. I would go, "Do you need something?" And he'd just smile. He goes, "Nope, I'm just grabbing this." And as he was leaving, he'd go, "Hey, tell her hi for me." People ask me all the time, as a minister, what I want to be called. And there are many ministers that are really particular about that kind of thing. You know what we call Chuck? Chuck. That's it. That's all we called him. He tried to make everything approachable and relatable and relational. Therefore, that's why I go by Bill in every circumstance. I know that there are people that prefer Pastor Bill. That's great too. That's awesome. But when asked in official settings, what is your title? I don't have one. I go by Bill because that's what Chuck did. And he was bald, by the way, and he made fun of it all the time. He used humor from the pulpit. He referenced sports a lot during his sermons. He would get emotional and shed tears in his sermons. Does any of that sound familiar to you all? Now, I'm better looking than he was, but that goes without it. He was also very humble. No, come on. More importantly, I learned about God from Chuck. And I've spoken with many of you over the years here that have experienced a God in childhood that I did not experience. Some of you experienced God that was wrathful, exclusionary, and judgmental. I did not, and that's because of Chuck. Chuck presented a love-filled and grace-filled God. And that's one of the reasons I went into ministry, is because of Chuck's influence. Now, Chuck passed away earlier this year. But the impact to me and to so many others will exist for a long, long time. And that is my All Saints moment. You guys clap for everyone else. No, I don't want it now. I got to beg for applause. That is ridiculous. A reading from Hebrews. We don't have a slide. I just want you to hear it. A reading from Hebrews. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin that clings so closely to us. And let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. Like I said earlier, we don't usually make a big deal about All Saints Sunday here at Forest Park, but we thought it was a good reminder that our faith does not develop in a vacuum. Who were the giants in your faith? Who are the ones that guided you, either intentionally or just by the way they impacted you? Who nurtured you? Who created conditions that you might come to know the beloved kingdom that Jesus advocated with everything he said and with everything he did? Can you picture that person right now or those people in your mind? Can you feel the impact they have had on your lives? But All Saints Day is not just a time to recollect and recall the saints of your past. It's also a time where we consider how we are making an impact on the faith journey of others. We have plenty of opportunities here at Forest Park to make a difference in the lives of children. There's Worship and Wonder, there's youth sponsors, there's Sunday school teachers, there's Children's Moment, or even just decorating a trunk and handing out candy to children. Sometimes the same kid like 12 times, I'm pretty certain. But it's also not just children that we are impacting. How is your life an arrow that points to justice rolling down like water and abundant love and mercy? Who are you a saint for? I've mentioned here more times than I can count up here in this pulpit, but I get a unique opportunity as a pastor to see how impactful a life is through the eyes of loved ones when I am planning a funeral. Gathering with the family and close friends, I start asking questions about the loved one that has recently passed. You can usually tell pretty quick if this person made an impact or not. I've been in meetings when the family would not stop talking long enough for me to write anything down. In these meetings, the families would go on and on and on about how their loved ones impacted their lives. One of my favorite things to ask is how your loved one informs who you are. And they have to take a second to understand that question. Like if you are a parent, how do you do things that make you think, ooh, that was my dad that came out at me, or oh, that was my mom that came out at me. And when the family starts trying to make those connections, it's interesting and meaningful to see them say, oh, well, I guess I am like my loved one because of this or that. And then there are others that struggle to say anything about their loved one. Oh, they loved them all right, very much so. They definitely loved them. But did the life make an impact? Some families struggle to come up with something that is in that department. None of us are who we are on our own. None of us are here today on our own. Our faith has been shaped by saints, both living and passed on, that we have known. We can only see as far as we do because we are standing on the shoulders of those that have come before us. And one day, there will be people standing on our shoulders as well. What kind of influence are you leaving? What foundation are you building? What are the ways you are bringing forth the kingdom so that others might see and benefit? God bless those that have come before us. And may God bless the saints for so many other children of God, including us. Thanks be to that God. Amen.